They've said I worked with the diligence of a ditch digger, being the great star. They're right. I worked with the diligence of a ditch digger, period. I threw myself into work the only way I knew how. Totally. A star can be terribly afraid of failure. But you keep your shoulders back, your chin high. A star has to keep in the race every minute.
At 14, Lucille LeSueur stepped out from behind a notions counter in Kansas City and into show business, dancing in a revue. A few jobs later, she was third girl from the left in the back row of the chorus of a Broadway musical. But she caught the eye of a producer from MGM, and he offered her a 6-month contract. She arrived in Hollywood in January 1925. Movies were still in the silent era, and Lucille was 16.
Within a week, I was spending most of my time before the camera. Not the movie camera, but the still camera in publicity. I was the action queen of cheesecake. I spent so much time posing in bathing suits on the windy lot, I developed tonsillitis. The publicity buildup worried me. I kept thinking, suppose I'm not any good. The grips and prop men would try to build me up with a, "Don't worry, kid, you can do it." Well, I had to. I couldn't sit and watch those 6 precious months slide by. I used to stand in the shadows watching the stars at work. I'd swipe pictures from the publicity files to study the coiffures. I plucked my eyebrows wide apart, fashioned my mouth into a coy Cupid's bow. I tried to make my eyes and mouth look smaller. But the one mistake I didn't make, I never tried to imitate anyone else. Hollywood must notice me before that 6 months was up.
To let off steam and attract attention, Lucille hit the nightclub circuit. The movie crowd favored the Coconut Grove, where glittering evenings usually included a dance contest. One night, she lost a slipper doing the Charleston. The crowd went wild, and Lucille took home a trophy.
Edmund Goulding saw me at the Grove. He was a director at MGM. "That girl's under contract to us, isn't she?" Mr. Goulding said. "She's a natural. She's Irene." He was speaking of the forthcoming production, Sally, Irene, and Mary, for which a lavish set was already being built for a full-stage Charleston number. The studio had never liked Lucille LeSueur. It may have been the name I was born with, but it sounded contrived. So they sponsored a contest in Movie Weekly. The winning name was Joan Crawford.
It was at this point that novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, "Joan Crawford is doubtless the best example of the flapper. The girl you see at smart nightclubs, gowned to the apex of sophistication, dancing deliciously, laughing a great deal, with wide, hurt eyes."
In my early pictures, I overacted horribly. Moved too much, cried too much, photographed like a caricature. It was all part of my education. Maybe I did play harder than anyone else, but I worked harder too. Perhaps because I had such an inferiority complex, I was trying to compensate for all I lacked in education, poise, and background.
Joan Crawford's 19th film, Our Dancing Daughters, released in 1928, made her a star.
Fan letters were pouring in. The studio gave me bundles of them every day, and I read every word. I had found that incredible thing, a public. People wrote to me as if they knew me. I answered every letter personally, addressed and stamped the envelopes, and took them to the post office myself. No bedtime for me until every letter was answered. I began to comprehend the power pictures have, the power an actress can have, the power of the studio, and the obligations to your public. From this moment on, life was never again carefree. Getting to the top is difficult, but staying there is twice as hard. There is an amazing discipline you acquire when you're raised in this business. I'm so organized, it's depressing. but I can't help it. It's a lifetime habit. I have a strict routine when I'm working. I get home around 7:30, oil my face twice, then clean off with mineral cleanser. I've used it since I was born. Then I bathe and wash my hair every night. It's baby fine. I have another habit. Every night before I go to bed, I wash out my own underwear. I got that habit during the years I was dancing in the chorus. What has always bored me is the harping on the length of my career and my durability. So I've had the longest career in Hollywood. Mine was an early start. I was a hoofer in the chorus line, and by hard work and good breaks, became, I hope, an actress. More than that, again, I hope. I've become a woman, learning and growing. Where does the woman end and the actress begin? I can't answer that. A little bit of every part rubs off on you. Without the parts I've played, I could have never become Joan Crawford.
A married attorney and an ex-soldier fight for the love of fashion artist Joan Crawford in Otto Preminger's slick romance, Daisy Kenyon, with Henry Fonda, next.
Angela, Angela.
Now, I'm all for sensitivity in men, but face it, dirty jobs call for tough guys.
I concede nothing until they throw dirt in my face.
I'm Vince Vaughn, I'm hosting AMC's Tough Guys. Every Wednesday, you'll see a classic movie and you'll get a master class in cool.
You work your side of the street, and I'll work mine.
As popular as John Wayne was and is, he remains underrated as an actor.
Death can come for you any place, any time.
The production had to be worked around Mitchum's schedule. He happened to be in jail at the time.
Are you always so chivalrous to strange women?
We'll kick that around some other time.
The guy could not only croon, he could shoot pretty good too. Cool? Well, these guys wrote the book.
Better put down that gun. Put it down or use it.
Join Vince Vaughn for a weekly walk on the wild side. Tough Guys. Tonight at 8, only on AMC.
You keep the martinis dry, I'll be back.
Unique vision. It's the difference between an ordinary director
What's the matter with him? Is he blind?
and a great one. Hitch had his mastery of the camera. Ford used the landscape like nobody else. Capra created characters his audience could feel for.
But I love Alice, and she loves me, and this whole thing's ridiculous.
Lucky for us movie lovers, they were generous with their vision. They share it every week on AMC's Director's Showcase, tonight at 10 Eastern. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at mbUSA.com.
There is no one sadder in the entire system of filmmaking than the screenwriter.
When fiction's finest took the Hollywood plunge, they didn't know they'd be swimming with sharks.
When you think of F. Scott Fitzgerald working in Hollywood, it's enough to make you cry.
See how the movie-making machine left many of our literary heroes at a loss for words. Carrie Fisher hosts an original documentary, Blocked, the Novelist's Experience in Hollywood. Saturday at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, only on AMC.
None of these people got any respect.
In the late 50s and early 60s, Rock Hudson was Universal Studios' leading man. As with most stars on studio contract, Rock helped promote his movies, his studio, and himself in scores of studio-arranged personal appearances. Here, from the AMC archives, are some Rock rarities.
It's an old Hollywood custom, movie stars leaving lasting impressions at the Chinese theater. Rock Hudson helps Elizabeth Taylor leave hers, and then it's the popular film actor's turn to cement his claim to stardom in the time-honored way.
Marietta, Ohio stages the greatest civic celebration in its history to welcome Colonel Dean Hess and to celebrate the world premiere of his dramatic film biography, UI's Battle Hymn. Guests of honor include Dan Duryea and Rock Hudson, who portrays Colonel Hess. Marietta College, celebrating Founders Day, confers an honorary degree on Rock Hudson, and the entire city joins in acclaiming everyone connected with the premiere. A distinguished roster of guests from the Diplomatic Corps and Capital Society attends a reception honoring Mr. and Mrs. Rock Hudson. The popular film star is being honored for his portrayal of Colonel Dean Hess in UI's widely acclaimed new production, Battle Hymn, an unusual tribute in the nation's capital for an outstanding film achievement.
That's Rock Hudson, and this is AMC's Unseen Hollywood.
This wartime airplane mechanic switched gears and became a quintessential leading man with a name to back it up. It's a birthday tribute to Rock Hudson, Friday on AMC.
I don't know anything about human nature. I don't know anything about curiosity. That's not part of what I do.
In a time of political paranoia, master caster Francis Ford Coppola knew which up-and-comers would make the cerebral thriller tick.
He'd kill us if he got the chance.
And like his cast against type star Gene Hackman, he wasn't afraid to take chances.
People were hurt me because of my work. I'm afraid it could happen again.
Don't miss one of the best movies of the 70s, The Conversation. Monday, November 27th at 11 p.m. Eastern, only on AMC.
Some guy's following me.
I try not to imitate anybody, including myself. I don't think that setting up the camera in crazy angles, shooting up or down, makes the style. I think the style is born with the director. I don't believe that you can create a style. Either you have it or you don't. I immediately had trouble with Mr. Zanuck, and he said to me, "You will never direct at the studio as long as I'm here. But you can produce the one film that you're preparing called Laura." And then Laura was started with me producing and another director, Mr. Mamoulian, directing. And Zanuck was in New York, and we sent him the rushes, and he didn't like them. Then Zanuck one day said, "What shall we do? Shall we fire Mamoulian?" And I said, "Yes." Then Zanuck said, "You can start from scratch the picture on Monday." And I did, and that is Laura, and that became a success. And you need only one success in this profession, and everything becomes easier for a while.
There is a river called the River of No Return.
She was a very insecure and unhappy human being. She was always surrounded by a coach, Natasha Naites, who was an absolute horror. I hope she's here to hear this. If not for Bob Mitchum, it would have been very difficult to make this film. But Bob Mitchum always took Natasha Naites, hit her on her back, and took her away so I could talk to Monroe. She always needed somebody to protect her. She was full of fear. I try to make a cut only when it means something, because the cut, whether you feel it, really aware of it or not, jolts you. It means something. And unless the cut is an accent, it is wrong.
See the best movies from your favorite directors. AMC's Director Showcase. Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Only on AMC. A married attorney and an ex-soldier fight for the love of fashion artist Joan Crawford in Otto Preminger's slick romance, Daisy Kenyon, with Henry Fonda, next. The following is brought to you by Wheaties, the breakfast of champions.
To perform at your best, you should always start with the fundamentals. And when it comes to the fundamentals of good nutrition, you should always start with whole grain. And when it comes to these leading cereals, only one has 100% whole grain. Only Wheaties. So only Wheaties gives you 100% whole grain nutrition. Now you know what Tiger knows.
Better get your whole grain. Better eat your Wheaties.
Start with the fundamentals. 100% whole grain Wheaties.